Hi, beautiful being. Oneness evolving out here. She can go. It bumped. Um, on Wednesday, and it's Wednesday, and I've just spent the morning writing for God of me, and so I'm out here just waiting for this Facebook Live to propagate around the internet. And while I do that, and hopefully the connection holds out, I'm going to show you the garden. And I'm in the back because the front is noisy, but the back is really pretty. Look at all this. They're not spring flowers, they're winter flowers. It is winter, but they are beautiful. So I hope you're enjoying them. Damn it, my there we go. My little holder thing is still in the screen, so now it's not. So there you go. I'm going to see how far I can walk before the connection craps out, because I want you to be a bit closer to the snowdrops. I probably can't get up so close I can show you the flowers properly. Either that or the Wi-Fi's got stronger. Woohoo! But aren't they gorgeous? There's just this huge big pile of them up here. I'm just pushing my luck, but I want you to see the detail. Down on my knees. See that? Aren't they gorgeous? So I really enjoy these flowers every year, and it's a massive bunch. And yeah, there's stuff growing here that needs to be done. I dug a lot of stuff out, and you know, when you dig things out, you get weeds. Hi, Mike! I'm up here, and look, the Wi-Fi's got better, so I can show you the flowers. Look at that. That's paper white. It's a jonquil. And here we have more jonquils. You can get up close and personal with this one. I don't know what its name is. I think it's just a heritage thing that's been around forever. Jonquil with long petals. And jonquil with short petals. This one has a name. It's a tatsetta jonquil. And I just love the fact that I've got lots of them here. And there's an orange one which is planted elsewhere in the garden. And you can see I haven't deadheaded the hydrangeas yet, but just take a good look. I'll find a beautiful one. Look at all that detail. So, and they're like paper. You can hear that. They end up in the compost heap. They're really good in the compost heap. So, there's beauty in everything. And the magnolia's coming out. There's so much to see in this little part of the garden. So I'll just climb up here. It's amazing. The Wi-Fi now works up here. It didn't used to. And let me just show you this flower. And you can hear the builders are still very busy across the way. I'll show you the sky. Oh, it's bright with the sun. Try and hold the camera level. Can't really see much of the building site there except the scaffolding. But that's the day. So let's walk in. And I'll just take you around this part of the garden. You can see it's a garden. It needs weeding. And look, the roses, you know, they've been pruned, but they've got bits coming away, and that's what roses do. So in a few months they'll be covered in flowers. And there's little blue things here, which I really enjoy, mixed up with other stuff. See, that's going to be autumn crocuses in a few months. And this is a native ground cover. It's called cotula. So, yeah, between them, they cover the ground, which is always important. All right. And something else that's lovely is this primula. My mother gave me this many years ago, and as you can see, it's big. It's like, you know, 1.5 feet across, and there's another piece there. All from one small piece about 30 years back, so it looks like it's slow until you realise how big it is. Right, I'm going to turn this around. Here's the rest of the world. Let's go inside and talk about what I've been doing for God of me. Because God of me just keeps on going, and it's kind of exciting because I never quite know what I'm going to be writing about from week to week. And I only get to do it once a week because that's all the time that I can dedicate to this. But I do this, you know, I get up and I do my morning meditation session, and then I write, and then I have lunch, and then I've got to get back to work, because that's just, you know, that's my life. I need to work to create the ability for me to live, and my husband. So here we are. I'm inside now. A little bit quieter in here. Just get this organised. So last week, you might remember, if you didn't watch last week, well, you won't, that we were talking about intention, because I used to struggle with intention, because back in the days when intention and affirmations and all that stuff were really new and exciting, none of it worked for me, and I didn't understand why. And it was because the stuff that I was wanting to create in my life didn't fit into those kinds of things where you said, well, I want, you're supposed to know what you want and when you want it and how long it's going to take and all the steps to get there. It's like, it just didn't work for me. And long time later, this is what the 0 Point Field and I've been writing about, I do intention very differently now. And I actually thought at the end of last week that we had written about intention and we were going to be doing the next thing that you have to be able to do, the next skill that you need to know how to do in order to use your heart compass to navigate through your life, especially when stuff is confusing or you're turned around or the question in front of you is really complicated or the situation is really complicated and you just think, hell, I don't know. But I was wrong, because we always start the session by going, I go back over what we wrote last week, and inevitably I end up unpacking something and making it more complete. But I thought I'd already done that. However, there were all these gaps, and so we got into a much more practical, blow by blow, this is how you do it for intention, the way that I have learned to do it. And this is what I do in my life. And so what happens, and it always gets broken down into steps, right? Because how are you going to follow something if there aren't steps? So the first step is that something comes up in your life. And by comes up, I mean the decision you have to make, or the, oh my God, that was out of the blue. That's really amazing. Shit, what do I do with that? Or just, I've been putting this off for ages and I don't know what to do, or, whatever. There is something that you're aware of that isn't the way you want it to be. So you want to get from A to B and you have no idea at all, or you're very confused. I mean, sometimes we really know. I mean, it's really obvious, but a lot of the time the choices we need to make aren't obvious. And in fact, one of the things that we did today that we wrote was an example of a question that, it should be obvious. And yet it's not. And I'll start with that. The example, I've got to put this here so I can see it. The example was, I've got a job. I've been accepted to have a job. Should I take it? And of course, if you are flat broke and you need money, the answer is probably yes. But we untangled this scenario and said, okay, so sometimes when if you get a job, and this is an example, remember, it could be anything, but we're just using something straightforward. You get a job and you think, well, it's obvious, I really need this, I have to have the income, I can get something better later, or, man, this is perfect, this is exactly what I wanted. It's obvious, But if you don't know, and if it isn't obvious, and you find yourself toing and froing, and you're thinking, what's going on? I don't know, and I don't know, and I don't know, and I don't know. This is what I mean by something's come up. So the first thing that humans do, me too, is we think, can I figure this out myself? I mean, this is where most people stop. We gather all the information we have and we turn it around our mind and we figure it out. And sometimes we do figure it out. But most of the time, we don't. We just don't come to any conclusion that feels really solid and true and right inside ourselves. So if you don't manage to figure it out on your own so that you know, because something like, should I take this job, is actually not a small decision. It means a whole lot of things about who you're going to be with, a lot over the next however long. And it's about where you've got to go every day or not go, depending on the job. It's all sorts of things. So you think, should I take the job or not? Do I need the money? But it can be a lot bigger. So if you don't know, this is what came out of my fingers, because it's what I realized I've learned to do, and it actually works for me, so hence I'm sharing it. What exactly in this confusing situation, whatever it is, do I really think about it. And that might seem obvious, but what I have found over and over and over and over again when I sit down to really contemplate things that are just, I can't figure it out, very often there are thoughts that I have kind of censored because they're bad thoughts and I shouldn't be thinking them. It's like I don't even want to really know how I think about the thing because it's uncomfortable for me to know how I think about it. I don't want to be thinking those ugly thoughts, but sometimes I actually have to make space for the ugly thoughts just to know what they are. It's the truth. I might as well know the truth because the truth will set me free. If I don't know the truth, I can't make good, well-informed decisions. So what do I really think? Really, what do I think? And it's quite often, if you were listening, if you were a fly in the wall, you would hear me say, what do I really think about this? And I will say, I speak this out loud to myself because I know when I speak, whether I'm speaking the truth or not. I can always tell if it's like, nah, that's bullshit, that isn't the real thing. Everyone's different. For me, I do have to do this out loud. So what do I really think? What do I really sense in my body? How does my body respond to this situation? You know, have you ever sat in a room where you think there's nothing particularly wrong here, but my body wants to get up and run out and you don't know why? Your body's having a reaction without you. So when we're confused or turned around or we can't figure things out, there's stuff going on in our body, but we're so trying to figure it out in our head that we don't even pay attention to what our body's trying to tell us. Your body may be screaming at you, trying to get a message through, and you're not listening because you're in your head going, what is my body feeling? What sensations do I have? If is it in my head? Is it in my chest? Is it in my legs? Or what am I feeling? And have I got lots of different sensations or is it just one? All that kind of stuff. And then what do I really feel? Now, emotions as in, I'm sad or I'm angry or I'm scared or I'm whatever. What do I actually really feel about this? A lot of this is just getting up close and personal with myself and being honest with myself about it. I don't have to tell anyone else, but I need to get real with me. Otherwise, I'm not making a really properly informed decision. And then last but not least, what am I actually doing? Like, if this is a thing that happens over and over, like a thing that I think, oh my God, I've done that 20 times and I hated it each time. Why haven't I changed that? How do I change that? That kind of thing. What am I really doing? And it might just be that I'm not doing anything per se. It's not about, I take this action. But in that circumstance, and I had that happen this morning. It was last night, but I dealt with it this morning. That I noticed that I was doing that in response to something. And I recognized that I'd done that many times in response to that thing or similar things. And I thought, well, I've got to stop doing that because that's a kind of an I'm scared and I'm shutting down and stay away. And, it's like, hello, that's not who I want to be. So it can be really subtle things. And you notice that crosses over with body sensations and emotions and thoughts. So it's not like I do, what do I think? What am I feeling in my body? What are my emotions and what am I doing? It's not like I go through one and then the next, and it all mushes together. But I look at the rock from all the different angles. And the thing is, by the time I've done that, I actually really know a lot more about myself and about the situation that I did before. And coming back to the example, should I take this job or not? And so what the 0 point field right was, okay, so you sit down and you go within and you ask yourself these questions. And by the way, I can often do this in a few seconds or maybe a few minutes. I got really fast at doing it. It's not a case of going down a 50 question checklist, a questionnaire. You get really fast with practice at doing this. So let's assume that you've had some practice and you're sitting with this question of, should I take this job or not? I really don't know. And you realize that the person who interviewed you, who is going to be your boss, if you take this job, gave you the creeps. And the funny thing is that the reason you're looking for a new job is because your current boss gives you the creeps. It's like, I'm not going to win anything that way, am I? But then there's the money and the money is a bit better, and also the new workplace is actually closer to where you live than the one you're at, so you have to travel less, so that's like another pay rise. So okay, there's more money, but there's a creepy boss. Now you've got one creepy boss already, but there's another creepy boss who's not a known creepy boss. The second creepy boss might be more creepy or different creepy. So you start realizing, oh, okay, same, but maybe not the same. More money, but, and then you realize that the location where it is close to where your best friend lives, which makes it really easy. The location where you currently work is close to where your best friend currently works, so it's very easy for you to meet with them. But on the other hand, your romantic partner, who you love to hang out with, the new workplace is a lot closer to where they work, so it'll make it really easy to hang out with them. And you also realize that in your current workplace, it's like your team, the whole team knows the boss is creepy, and the whole team sort of works together to manage the boss's creepiness, which is not a small thing because teams don't always work together. And more than that, you kind of all support each other. So there's a really important kind of workplace support network, which you can't guarantee at the new place. You don't know what those people are going to be like. And you also realize, geez, I'm in the middle of a really interesting project and I don't want to leave right now because I want to see it get to this point and then I'd be happy to leave. So you're offsetting all of these different things that you hadn't realized because you were just thinking, oh, shall I leave or shall I get the job or not? But as you go within and you recognize your body's response, which is, oh my God, that boss is creepy. And oh, gee, I really like my colleagues and all of that stuff. Then you start to put together a much more comprehensive awareness of what the questions, what the intention that it's like, I've got an intention. Do I do this or do that? I've got an intention to know whether I should do this or do that. Okay, so here's the situation. And it's much more complex and layered, and there's a whole puzzle, there's a whole bigger picture that you hadn't been looking at because it's not just the job. And in my experience, whenever I'm confused, it's never the thing that I'm just looking at, it's always the stuff around it. But if I'm all wound up and confused and I need to make a decision yesterday, which is an added challenge if you've got, limited time and you're feeling stressed, well, it can be really difficult to observe that larger picture. Now, in this case, I think that most people would say, oh, well, the extra money is not really worth changing all the good things about that job. And they would stay there because, okay, it's extra money, but it's not really that much. It's a little bit. And there's all those unknowns about the people I'm going to work with, which could be much less than what I've got at my workplace. I'm going to stay. But I'm going to talk with my team and see whether we as a group can go to HR and see if they can do something to help the boss be less creepy. Why not? There's really nothing wrong with Rome except the big creepy boss. And also, I'm going to talk to my romantic partner and see whether we can find a way to meet for lunch once a month anyway. It's like, hello, why didn't I do that before? So just by going within, you might come up with an answer like that. When I do that process for something that's gone, blown up in my face, I will often get clear about it, but I often will not have an answer. As in, oh my God, why did that person really kick me off my rocker? And I'm still going round and round and round and round with the thoughts of how that interaction went and how I feel about it and how I don't want to it's like, why am I still stuck there? And I can do that and I can get clearer about my responses, but I still don't know really what the deal is. And at that point, so that's me getting clear. At that point, I say, okay, this is something that I'm going to have to take into the 0 point field, and we're going to have a conversation about it and change it there. Because whatever the answer is that I'm seeking, it is not inside the box in my brain, to quote Dr. Joe Dispenza. All the things that we know and we've learned in our experiences and everything is wired neurologically inside your head. But if you've gone right through your internal library and you don't have an answer, well, you need an answer to come from somewhere else. And what I know now is that all information is available to me in the 0-point field. And remember, it's available in one proton on the tip of your nose or on your finger or on your backside. It doesn't matter. Every single proton in the entire universe contains all the information of the universe, and it's connected to all of the others. So if you know how to put your awareness in the right places and in the right way, you can access that information. That's what I know now, and that's what the mathematics that Nassim Haramein is doing shows. And there's more and more evidence, there's an experimental evidence coming out to show that it's true. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. So that to me is an intention. There's a situation, I've had a response, I've got familiar with the response, I may have figured it out on my own, but if I can't, then I'm going to take that, I'm going to put that on, kind of like on the table and say, okay, ZPF, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow morning. I mean, I often do this in the evening because I do a half-hour evening meditation that Dr. Joe Dispenza has created, and I find it really, really useful because it provides me with the space to do exactly this. Now, I can do this with my eyes open without Joe prompting me and without music, but often it's just that it gives me that space. You know, I put that time aside, 34 minutes, I'm in there doing that for the first about, 15 or 20 minutes, and then there's other things that we do to sort of get the brain and body ready for bed. But this is the process. It really works. You've got to actually be willing to take honest stock of yourself and your responses and not necessarily find an answer, but then realize that if you master the right skills, you can get the answer by connecting to the 0-point field. And at the point at which that happens, some of the confusion will already be gone because you're not spinning in a circle thinking, shit, I don't know, and I'm never going to know, so how am I going to figure this out? Because you have a way forward. It's like, okay, I'm really clear about my question now. Every question is on its own an intention. It's a question that says, hey, I need some new information. And I find unfailingly that when I take that kind of thing into the 0-point field, it always gives me an answer. And the answer sometimes shocks and surprises me because it's so not what I expect, but it always is exactly what I need to know to move forward, just that one little step towards more of who I want to be day by day. And for me, that's the only game, is who am I being, and this connection that I have with the 0-point field, because it informs and guides everything else, and so much more. But right now we're talking about knowing your way forward. So that's what I wrote today. That's what we wrote today. I mean, I did the physical typing, but there's this conversation going on in my mind about, well, how do we say this? And that's what we're doing for God of me. So I can be God of me, and you can be God of you. And if everybody is their own master, well, then the world is going to change one person at a time. So if you want to hear me read exactly what we finished writing today, which is this great expansion on what we wrote last week, well, then all you have to do is click the link underneath this post. And hey, if you got this far, congratulations. And check me out on Patreon. You can follow me for free because I read these things every week. I read what we wrote and put it up, and you can listen. And you can go back and find all the bits that lead up to this. There's so much amazing information. The way the 0-point field explained things is not how I would do it, and I just am constantly surprised. I thought we were going to write about something else entirely this week, and we didn't. So there it is. Intention practical. This is how you do it. And I'll be reading it blow by blow, word by word, in a couple of days on Patreon for you to enjoy and take it away and try it. I'd love to know how you get on. So I look forward to hearing from you there. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.